Samir. It doesn't feel like Go unless Samir's MC, so I'm happy you're here. The first one I went to is the first one we had in Toronto. I couldn't make the first one because it was my birthday and I had wilder plans that day. But yeah, it's great to have Samir back and enjoy catching up with him. So this is going to be the lightning round. It's about a 5 to 7 minute presentation per person. We have 3 people presenting today. So first we'll go with Open Government and Building Public Trust in Canada, Charles, probably going to pronounce it wrong, Taillefer, Executive Director, Access to Information Policy and Performance at the Treasury Board of Canada.
So maybe I'll just, before I begin, I just want to acknowledge the land on which I'm located is the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe people. I also want to thank Yuri for inviting me to participate in this event. I think the theme, Unlocking Innovation Together, Breaking Barriers, Building Futures, speaks to many aspects of the work that we're undertaking at the federal level. Recently, within Treasury Board Secretariat, we've been breaking down some barriers of sorts between the formal legislative policy related to the Access to Information Act and the current policy work on open government. If you have access to the placemat, it should be posted there, but if it isn't, you'll see in both in the purpose clause and in the government policies related to open government, that they share the same common objectives, and which are the core principles of open government. So transparency, accountability, and participation. And we all know that these principles are necessary to foster open and democratic societies. Canada has been implementing open government activities for over a decade and has been recognized as a leader in global open government by the global open government community and by the Organization on Economic Cooperation and Development. As a member of the Open Government Partnership, Canada has consulted on, developed, and published 5 national action plans on open government in collaboration with federal government institutions, civil society, and other levels of government, the private sector, and the public. Start my video. There we go. We have just launched the process to develop the next iteration of the action plan, so the 6th national action plan, and I encourage all of you to participate in its development. You could check out the site where you could submit ideas and vote on ideas. It's actually pretty well done, and we're getting some really good input. Canada's Access to Information Act has been in place for over 40 years and has been amended a few times to expand the scope of application and to address requesters' needs over the years. Most recently, the Act has introduced an entirely new section on proactive publication, which extends the Act beyond its traditional request-based regime to proactively provide key information to the public through the Open Government Portal. If you could see the amount of information that's provided and will continue to be provided through that Open Government Portal. This shift in terms of the Act represents a bit of a change in the nature and expectations of citizens with respect to information. Having a right to access where you need to wait 30 days, often much longer, for a response runs contrary to a world where digital tools provide instant access to data and information. Citizens have access to endless streams of information. Some of it's accurate and some of it isn't. This is why having access to accurate, reliable, and timely information is so fundamental to maintaining strong democracies and fighting disinformation and misinformation. The UN Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, in his August 22 report, Countering Disinformation for Promotion and Protection of Human Rights and Fundamental Freedoms, noted that nation states, rather than imposing restrictions, should be promoting and maximizing transparency and access to information in order to build trust in public institutions, governance, and processes. This is in fact a key lesson coming out of the pandemic, that open government principles are core to responding to infodemics in the digital age, where the deluge of accurate and inaccurate information can spread very rapidly. This puts implementation of open government principles not only at the core of confronting these challenges, but as central to supporting fundamental freedoms. Canada's open government program and its access to information regime have been under considerable scrutiny in the past few years. A 2022 evaluation of the open government program found that there was a need for a strong vision of open government in Canada. The OECD's Open Government Scan of Canada, which focused on the design and implementation of an open government strategy, identified challenges and opportunities in support of such a vision and strategy. 3 findings from the scan stand out: the need for a whole of government approach, the need for political leadership, and the need to broaden our understanding of open government beyond transparency to more fully integrate participation into the open government agenda. In parallel to this, the Access to Information Act has been the subject of a full review from 2019 to 2023, which resulted in a report to Parliament. The Access to Information and Privacy and Ethics Committee also completed a study of the Act, which resulted in 38 recommendations for reform and legislative change and a general call for more openness. So getting back to the core theme of the conference, it is clear that there are big challenges ahead. However, I believe the solutions do rest with the core principles of transparency, accountability, and public engagement as the means to build trust. But this needs to be examined more closely, needs to examine the continuum and interrelationship between these core principles. It's not enough to just put out information or simply request comments as the sole means of engagement. We need to better explore how these principles can work together to improve public trust. That is, making sure citizens have the information they need to participate in democratic debate and to hold government to account. This is not a siloed activity, but rather an ecosystem that we must continue to support. Thanks.
Thank you for that update, Charles. Next, we've got our next topic is Green Innovation by Lily Viggiano from Greenhouse Senior Project Manager.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lily. I work at the University of Waterloo at our social impact incubator. It's called Greenhouse. We've been around for 10 years. What we do is we focus on supporting students who have an idea to make a social or environmental impact. So that'll mean helping them refine their problems, making sure that the ideas that they have are validated, and getting them ready to pitch for funding. More recently, we started a program called Changemaker Labs. And what we're looking at is how can we engage multi-departments, lots of different audiences together and talk about mobilizing local climate action change by looking at our regional strategies, by looking at cutting edge technology, by looking at Indigenous ways of knowing, and trying to bring all of these features together to mobilize people to make sustainable cities. So I got looped into this conversation not because I have any experience in open data. This is so not my domain knowledge, but what my involvement in Go Open Data is right now is tomorrow we're hosting a GOOD24. So what we have been doing for the last couple of weeks is working with the City of Kitchener to come up with a challenge statement to engage young people in understanding open data. How can we use that information, look at local resources that we have, whether it's programs or funds, kind of bridge those gaps that exist so that we can address inequities in our community. More specifically, we're going to be looking at how to address heat stress and heat inequity that take place here in the City of Kitchener. Heat islands tend to exist in areas that are also facing other types of inequities as well, right? So high density neighborhoods, low income neighborhoods face these unique challenges. And it has a whole host of different impacts, including public health. So tomorrow from 9 till 4, we'll be walking students through that process of understanding, how do I look at open data sets? How do I do that in an ethical way and do that in kind of a good-minded approach? And also kind of opening their minds up to what are some of the existing resources that we have. So for me, one of the things that I would like these students to see, because they're not all students who are, going to be a GIS specialist when they're done their undergrad or when they're finished their high school career. They're actually from all different disciplines, but what we're trying to help people see is how can everybody participate in making more transparent, accountable communities by knowing how to look for information and using that information to make better decisions. We're really lucky. We have a lot of professionals that are going to help us out tomorrow, some staff members from the City of Kitchener. We also have folks from REAP Green Solutions. So those folks just released a report called Mapping for Inclusive Communities. And what they have been exploring is how might we use open data to ensure that vulnerable populations in our community have access to sustainable programming, have access to even just knowing that tree equity programs exist, for example. So they've kind of gone through that process as well. They'll be sharing their early thoughts on how do you even begin to solve that challenge. So they will be there as well as folks from Climate Action Waterloo Region. So those are people who work with all 7 of the municipalities, as well as REAP Green Solutions and Sustainable Waterloo Region. And they've come up with our community climate roadmap, and then they also keep all of the accountability as we work towards 6 different transformational goals as it relates to climate action. I think it's really important to get folks involved in understanding things like open data so they can make good decisions as well. As someone who has worked in the community for 8 years and is just starting to get into academia, knowing that this sort of information exists and could help me make better informed decisions as someone who, say, works at a charity, right? Like, there's a lot of different use cases that I think folks who aren't like very much like in this room already, that they don't really have that understanding or appreciation of what it can do to even strengthen their cases for funding and for grants as well, right? So we can empower people with knowledge, and I think it's really important for us to keep on finding ways to bring these different voices into a room together so that at a municipal level, we're hearing from everybody and then making good use of that time. And my last thing that I'll say, I didn't really have a lot to say, is that if groups come and approach you to participate in hackathons or design sprints or to come to their classrooms, please do. And kind of manage your expectations on what you might get from student talent, but really think about what you can share with these students so that they are walking into their career and walking into their new roles with that knowledge and with that appreciation. We talk a lot about talent retention here in Waterloo Region. We have 3 of some of the biggest institutions in Canada here. And a lot of folks, they get their degree and then they leave. So when we have professionals like Jason and his team from the City of Kitchener who are taking the time to share their knowledge with post-secondary students and high school students, what they're doing is creating an opportunity for students to want to stay and to feel like they have an understanding of their community in a deeper way, and that they can feel like, I put my mind on something for a day that could give some good insights. Now, we're not thinking that they're going to create a whole new website or application today to bring together all the open data sets and all of our local resources, but it's given them that opportunity to play. So if other teachers and educators come up to you and ask you to play, please say yes. It's so important for young people and for the educators who are teaching them to have these opportunities to engage. So that is my presentation, I suppose. Happy to answer some questions after the next person does their lightning talk. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. So next, our next lightning talk is on the CODS good collaboration and events. And speaking will be Paul Connor, who's the Executive Director of the Canada Open Data Society, or CODS.
Thank you. So Yuri and I have known each other a pretty long time, and Connie there was the one who inveigled me into the whole open data thing at the Go Open Data 2015 summit at Brock University, so a bit of history already. And it's been a very pleasurable collaboration, and we've got a few things cooking that I hope you'll find attractive. We're working on a project to perhaps certify open data practitioners, not in the most rigorous sense, but giving people a sense that they're covering all the bases when it comes to knowledge domains that are pertinent to doing work in the open data field. Because we think there's somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 people who touch open data, at least at a government level or a nonprofit level in Canada, and we're finding more all the time, of which more later. So Jamie in Niagara Falls and I have been working every 2 weeks for the past couple of weeks, just sort of resolving those knowledge domains in the hopes that we can start certifying people first on the basis of experience, because we've got a lot of experienced people, not least in this room, but also on the basis of courses we can suggest people take if they want to get involved in open data. And I think it's important to remember it's not just a government thing. Private businesses are occasionally releasing some open data, like TELUS Mobility, for instance. And nonprofit organizations more and more, scientific organizations are among our members at CODS. So I think there's nowhere for this movement to go but up, no matter the occasional ups and downs among various government bodies with respect to open data, again, of which more later. I think that open data practice is going to be a good and growing field that we'll all want to have a piece of. So that's one of our big things that we're doing together. And we also, we have an MOU, so we're looking for projects to work on together. And so if anyone has a burning need to address a particular issue in open data that we could get funded, then by all means. The government speaker, the federal government speaker, spoke about the National Action Plan. Yes, the consultation for that closes June the 1st. And I'd really like to encourage everyone to find that on the Open Government X account, excuse me, Twitter, whatever. And have your say, because open data isn't mentioned in the next one yet. It's not mentioned. We got to make sure it's mentioned, because we think open data should always be surfaced as a government priority. If I may tell you a few other things that we're doing at CODS, if that's okay. We have an open call every quarter. The next one is on June the 4th. Everyone's welcome. If you've got something you want to talk about, something you're working on, you want to take 2 minutes and tell the community about it. Our first one in March during International Open Data Week was very successful. So take those 2 minutes. It can open a lot of doors. It can really expand your network. And if I can go to the first slide on this here, we're working on finding and analyzing all the open data portals and all the open data across Canada. This is a project that was slid to us by Treasury Board Canada. They were working with the University of Ottawa, and we took it on. And we've got a nice technical committee. We hope to someday automate it. But next slide. This is where we're at right now. We've identified 233 portals. We are using Metabase as a visualization tool, and we've got all these keen students who are actually playing with this stuff and coming up with ideas, and it's a really intense back and forth with them. It's great. Next slide, please. So the long run goal of this is to find the value, the total value, the economic value of open data in Canada. But to begin with, we're just trying to find a value proposition for the data that we have. Anybody here a fan of XKCD? Got 1, 2, 3, 4 hands. Okay, well, highly recommend it. There's a cartoon where the guy's like, I've got a whole bunch of data. I'm going to analyze it. And his partner's like, no, you fool. That will only create more data. And that's where we're at with this thing. We are actually creating data about the open data, and we hope to release that very soon, because we think that people knowing what other people are doing in open data is all to the good. I mean, the fact is that between our two organizations, we've got a good community of practice going, and we'd like to expand on that. Next slide. So this is just the beginning of a breakdown of what we found so far. And already I can see that, we have some work to do in further defining our categories and further eliciting the finer details of what's going on with open data in Canada. For instance, you see only a handful of sites are in the French language. That's because Données Quebec is actually, as I understand it, pretty good about adopting other people's open data. They'll vet the organization and then they will take it into their portal almost federally. So that may account for the fewer number of portals, but it does not mean that they have any less diversity when it comes to open data. And when you see government versus non-government, well, those non-government portals are harder to find. They're pesky. But we're continuing our search, and this is a work in progress. And again, the federal portal actually federates and inputs open data from other portals because they use CCAN, right? And you can federate, as I understand it, those portals. So that also may be a bit of a misnomer. Remember, there's 130 federal government departments, and almost all of them should have an open data officer of some kind. So, the best is yet to come, but just want you to know we're hard at work on this for all of you. Next slide. The scoring system. There's probably as many scoring systems as there are open data portals at this point, but we hope to convene a community consensus on what a simple scoring system would look like for open data portals and for open data in general. I mean, there's the 5-star system. I understand the City of Toronto's done something. And actually, that reminds me of another XKCD cartoon where like, hey, there's 12 standards for this plug. We need to come up with a plug that addresses all use cases. Oh, now we have 13 standards. So, this is not going to be an easy one, but we are working on it. We have a student who's very enthusiastic about it. And we want specifically to be relevant to the issues of the day. So we're looking at housing right now. We're surfacing the data and we're examining a specific use case. And I just got contacted by a research project at U of T where they're doing the same thing. They're looking at permits for building or renovating and renovicting, there's a dirty term, apartments in Toronto. So they're surfacing some very interesting information. And again, it's just beginning to do what's necessary in this field. I think that's it for our slides. Is that it? Okay. So that's what we have to look forward to in the future. And if anyone wants to play with open data about open data, you know where to find me, I hope. We're also, let's see, what else can I tell you? Oh, yes, we're also doing pub nights every quarter. So we try to do those in various towns and cities across Canada. We've done them in Montreal, Toronto, Hamilton, Vancouver, and Edmonton, and we hope to do them in Victoria and in Ottawa and maybe down east fairly soon. So that's generally like a quarterly thing, March, June, September. And you would not believe how much can come out of these little open data. It's no pack drill, no names, no agenda, just people talking to each other, and yet we were able to discover so much and share so much with one another. So I'd encourage you to sort of keep an eye on our X feed in case there's a pub night opening up near you. And if I covered everything, I think, yes, I have. So we look forward to further collaborations with Go Open Data, not least on this research project, because a lot of it concerns Ontario data, as how could it not? 40–50% of the country is here. Thanks very much for giving me the time to speak. Thank you, Yuri.
Thank you, Paul. Does anyone have any questions? Anything online? Anyone here? Jonathan? Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Sorry, for somebody that is just starting to implement an open data portal for a municipality, are there resources or anything that you can direct them to?
Oh, Paul, do you? There used to be.
Thank you. So up until very recently, the Government of Canada Treasury Board had a DIY open data kit for municipalities on their website, and it's now down. So we tell them that there's appetite for this and they need to restore it, or better still, update it. In the meantime, you can look for it on the Internet Wayback Machine. That's the answer they gave me, anyway. Anyway, and also New Zealand has a nice one as well.
Okay.
And a lot of it is the soft skills. Like, I want to stress this. Like, you can get a little course on how to mount a CCAM portal. It's basically Drupal, right? With some, refinements. But convening your internal group and getting the buy-in from senior management and all that stuff, that's what the DIY toolkit really talks about. That's what's really great at. So I'd highly recommend that you take a look.
I believe the region of York also has some of their documents online. Like
Oh, yes.
policy and things like that. So there
Oh,
are
and
some.
City of Toronto
and
is
City of Toronto
dying
as
to
well.
share their practices. They're really good at that.
Thanks, Paul. Any other questions, John?
Lily, that was a great pitch for the students and youth in general. And I'll just make 2 comments and ask a question. They surveyed Ellen Fields, professor at Lakefield University, surveyed K-12 students. In the very last paragraph of that survey research paper, it says, the young generation don't want to have a pat on the back by the older generation. They use the word allyship. They want to see that the older generation has skin in the game, even though they contributed to the problem. They want to be part of the solution that the youth are working on. So you made a great point. So what would be a way of not just breaking barriers to the older ones that may have the experience and are going to bring that to this exciting event tomorrow? How do we build futures after that one-day event?
Thanks, Jonathan. So with Good Hack, we have some pathways that we're going to directly be pointing students in the direction of. So even if they're not able to continue working on the solution that we're going to be building with the City of Kitchener folks, we want to encourage people who have that interest in using technology for good to find their people, right? So a lot of that pathways piece is stay connected to Greenhouse, stay connected to the Youth Impact Project. There's a Youth Climate Action Fund that's starting up in mid-June. So there's all sorts of little pockets of, again, programs and resources. And what we as allies for youth can do is kind of bridge those gaps and bridge those pieces of knowledge so that students who have that inkling to want to keep doing something like technology for good and looking at unique ways of addressing climate change, they can do so. And I think one of the other pieces that was really helpful is having such a diverse nature of the mentors and experts that are going to come tomorrow. So some have the open data practices, some are peer leaders who have experience in coding and UX design, and then we have folks as well who have experience in design thinking. So I think as well helping every adult see that there is a role that they can play in a young person's education. They don't have to actually have the hat of teacher. So I think it's just a lot of keep it messy, keep it fun, keep saying yes, and having people come back and just forge that community.
Thank you, Lily. Any other questions? No. All right. Thank you, all the presenters. In lieu of presenter gifts, Go Open Data is making a $500 donation to the Working Center in Kitchener. Samir?